Edit. The point that nobody cares about this issue and that society is overly concerned has already been made. It does not need to be repeated. I understand. Story 1. Weird Al Yankovic is going to make a big impact. He has been a staple of my life since I was a child. He is incredibly talented, and his work is pure and joyous. He is a national treasure, and it will be a tragic day when he passes away. Story 2. Robin Williams was tough. A local sports commentator in my city lost his well-known struggle with mental health. Going from listening to someone every single morning to finding out he took his life affected me more than I expected. Rest in peace, Simmer. Story 3. No one currently, but Chris Cornell from Soundgarden was a huge influence for me. My only man crush. Before that, probably Steve Irwin, as mentioned already. Story 4. You asked about a sudden, unexpected death. Many people mention older individuals where such an event would not be too surprising. We have some well-known names who are older, such as Jack Nicholson, Harrison Ford, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and Dolly Parton. For sudden, unexpected, or surprising deaths, I feel like Taylor Swift, Lady Gaga, or Beyoncé would impact people deeply. For men, perhaps Robert Downey Jr., Dwayne Johnson, Leonardo DiCaprio, Ryan Reynolds, or Brad Pitt. Jim Carrey would likely affect many millennials as well. Of all these, I think Taylor Swift and Ryan Reynolds might be the two best examples of losing individuals who would profoundly affect many people. Story 5. Hard to be deeply affected by someone I do not know personally, but I would be saddened if Keanu Reeves died. Story 6. Elton John. I really like him. He is not from my era, but he made some great songs and seems cool. Story 7. Robin Williams and Akira Toriyama have been the saddest deaths to me personally. I am not super invested in celebrity culture anymore, but I think Bernie Sanders will also be sad for me. Story 8. Mac Miller impacted me deeply for several reasons. I really liked his music. It was very connected to my adolescence and going from 17 to my early 20s. I was also 27 when he died, so it felt like a reality check. It seemed like Mac knew it was always coming too. Story 9. For me, perhaps Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr. Yes, older men who lived long lives, so even if accidental, it would not be a stretch to call it sudden. But certainly the end of something bigger than ourselves. McCartney and Starr must be among the most recognized people on Earth, and they are known for making people smile, whether through their songs or simply walking into a room. They are ambassadors of joy, and seriously, we need more of them. The love you take is equal to the love you make. Story 10. I cannot think of any living famous person, but Thich Nhat Hanh's death in 2022 was like that for me. The world became poorer the day he died. Story 11. Whenever Michael Jordan passes away, the sports world will shut down. In the vein of Robin Williams, if Will Ferrell, Conan O'Brien, or Pedro Pascal were to suddenly pass away, it would rock the entertainment industry. Story 12. Bernie Sanders. And I hope I am not around to see it because I am older than he is, but Barack Obama. Story 13. David Attenborough is a hero to naturalists in my opinion. His education about the planet and animals, along with his contributions to zoology, cannot be overstated. His biography is an amazing read, and his voice is smooth and pleasant. Story 14. I honestly couldn't name anyone, but I can give an example. Mythbusters was always a comfort show. I don't think it ever made my top 10 favorite shows because it wasn't really what I thought of as a favorite, but if I was flipping through shows, it would stay on. I would read while I listened to the show, watch the explosions, and laugh at Adam annoying Jamie. When I heard Grant passed, I was absolutely shocked and devastated. I didn't realize how much I had grown to care about this cast. So, I'm sure it will be something like that. Someone from a comfort show that I can't think of at the moment because it's not a favorite. Story 15. George Lucas. I am a huge Star Wars fan, but aside from that, he really had an impact on Hollywood. He changed filmmaking forever. As a fan, I would be very sad, but I also believe we would have a good amount of time with news and documentaries reporting his life and death. In music, I was a fan of Michael Jackson and Chester Bennington. I would definitely be affected if Mike Shinoda died suddenly. I knew Linkin Park would eventually come back after Chester, but if Mike dies, it will be the end. Story 16. I was part of the nobody crowd until Robin Williams chose to end his life. That event made me very sad. I do not know if I would say it deeply affected me, but I cared and felt for his family and the generations of fans to whom he brought so much laughter and joy. Story 17, Samuel L. Jackson, Morgan Freeman, Martin Lawrence, Eddie Murphy. It hurts seeing my favorite actors get old. Story 18, Robin Williams and Chadwick Boseman were the last ones to impact me deeply. As for who might in the future, I am not sure, but I would expect it to be someone fairly young. Story 19, Brian Wilson. He is older now and has been through so much, so it would not be a complete shock. His music has meant a great deal to me, and his journey through life is one for the ages. I believe it will be difficult to accept that news whenever it may come. Story 20. I always said none as I did not know these people, but when Chris Cornell died, I found myself in a funk for the rest of the morning. He was one of my main influences in teaching myself to sing. Story 21. Misha Collins, Jensen Ackles, David Tennant, Michael Sheen. Those are the actors I admire. There are also several voice actors I adore, but the list is already quite long. Story 22. Not for me, but every white man over 50 in the Northeast is going to lose their mind when Bruce Springsteen dies. Imagine this, but in New Jersey with Born to Run playing. Story 23, Mel Brooks. Much of my childhood was spent watching his movies. I was sad when Leslie Nielsen and Robin Williams passed away, as I had also grown up watching them. Story 24, Michael Schur, Tina Fey. Weirdly, Louis C.K., despite the fact, well, especially because I am still mad at him and have not watched anything of his in many years, but also I still love him. Raphael Bob Waxberg, Will Forte, Will Ferrell, Tim Heidecker and Eric Wareheim, Taika Waititi. If John Oliver died, I just might not make it. I guess it is all comedians for whatever reason. Not quite. Malala Yousafzai, Greta Thunberg. Story 25. I was shocked by Matthew Perry's death. After reading his book, I was surprised by how troubled he was. It is truly sad. Story 26. There have been a few already: Robin Williams, Chris Cornell, and Anthony Bourdain. I was deeply saddened by all of them. Story 27. I suppose most people would react strongly if, say, Beyoncé, Taylor Swift, Timothée Chalamet, or Kylian Mbappé were to die suddenly. However, I personally would not be affected by a famous person's death as far as I am concerned. Story 28. James Hetfield, since it will mark the end of Metallica. Next up, Tony Dorsett, Magic Johnson, and Michael Jordan. These athletes meant a lot to me as a boy. Story 29. Tommy Cooper's death affected me deeply as I was only 15 at the time and watched it happen live on United Kingdom television. Story 30. I have a hard time thinking of any celebrity who would affect me like that. Maybe someone who is young when they pass, but that is just because I would be sad they died so young, not necessarily because of who they are. Story 31. Elijah Wood, known for his role as Frodo. As celebrities get older, their deaths become less shocking. Harrison Ford, for example, is someone I love in almost everything he does. However, he is getting older. If he died tomorrow, I would be sad but not surprised or deeply affected. You start to mentally prepare for their passing once they are over 70. Story 32. The only celebrity death that I really felt was David Bowie. He was such a touchstone for me. I cannot even imagine any celebrity living now having a similar impact. Story 33. Troy Baker is primarily a voice actor known for performing many versions of the Joker in animated movies and video games. He also voices Joel from The Last of Us and Booker DeWitt from BioShock. Story 34. There would not be many. Robin Williams and Chester Bennington were the two celebrity deaths that really impacted me. Both their stories broke my heart, and they were important figures in my formative years. I am not sure who else would have that kind of impact. Story 35. Tom Petty and Malcolm James McCormick are the only celebrity deaths that felt like I was personally robbed of something. Rest in peace. Story 36. Not very famous, but Monty Elm dying due to a bad reaction to anesthetic was heartbreaking. He had such a unique animating style. Story 37. Terry Pratchett's death from the dreaded embuggerance hit me like a train. I met him once, a gentle, humane, angry, funny, witty, flamboyant man with a hat. Knighted by the Queen, loved by people everywhere. Story 38. Prince, Tom Petty, Levon Helm, and John Prine were all tough to see. Neil Young's passing will be a hard day for me. Story 39. I would say Schwarzenegger, but in all honesty, I would probably just say, oh, that's a shame, be a bit bummed out for a minute or two, then move on with my day. I do not have the emotional capacity to be that bothered by the death of someone I do not actually know personally. Story 40. Everyone in the current administration dying in fires would be enough to get me to eat out alone for the first time in years. Story 41. Stevie Ray Vaughan. I still see the world as less than it was before his untimely and tragic death. I never got to see him live, which I regret. He was a brilliant musician, a source of local pride, and he was just turning his life around from a self-destructive path. Rest in peace, Stevie Ray Vaughan. You were taken from us too soon. Thank you for the lasting gifts that you bestowed upon us. Story 42. I felt terrible when Alexi Laiho passed away, and MF Doom, Prince, Michael Jackson. If Dave Mustaine, Kirk Hammett, and Marty Friedman go, I will be very upset. Story 43. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is the most successful American politician whose views closely align with mine, and no one else comes close these days. That is a lot of responsibility for one person. Story 44. None of them would. I really do not understand being deeply affected when a stranger dies just because I enjoyed the music they made. I loved Van Halen's music. When he died, my response was the same as when Meat Loaf, Eddie Money, Christine McVie, and others died. I thought, I hope they were ready to meet their maker, and then I moved on with my life. Story 45. Anthony Bourdain's passing deeply affected me. I think of living people, and I will be very sad when Werner Herzog dies. He seems like a lovely and fascinating person, and his loss will be felt by all of us. Story 46. I felt this way when David Foster Wallace died since I had been reading him a lot at the time. I cannot really think of anyone now. I believe I have detached from caring about public figures the older I get. Story 47. I enjoy listening to the advice Denzel Washington gives. I would also add Morgan Freeman, Brian Cox, and Tom Hanks, but to a lesser degree. Story 48. Shigeru Miyamoto is 72 years old and is solely responsible for more hours of play and joy than any artist, living or dead. He is not just a titan, he is the titan. I am not ready. Story 49. Phil Collins. I have known him and his music my whole life. I am a 1998 kid who grew up with Tarzan and Brother Bear. His health has been really bad the last few years, so I would not be surprised to hear the news. Story 50. Music related again, but John Mayer. Idolized him as a teenager and learned most of what I know on guitar by watching and listening to him. Had the privilege to see him live a few times. Each time I would go home and try to learn the stuff I saw him do. Such a very talented person. That would probably hurt the most. Story 51. I was a bit upset when Peter Cushing died. He was such a lovely man despite his portrayals of villains on screen. Story 52. Anton Yelchin's death still sticks with me. He was just a kid, and it was such a tragic and terrible way to die. Plus, he was very talented. Story 53. My husband was Robin Williams. I had just given birth to our son and found out he had passed away. My son was born on the day Robin Williams passed away. Story 54. Douglas Adams. His books helped expand the way I look at the world and made me feel better about being the unique person I am. Story 55. I frankly think you put too much weight on any of those three having a deep impact on the public. I would argue most of the public was not deeply affected. I am sure there was a subset of the population that was deeply affected, as with anyone who dies. Story 56. It was Anthony Bourdain, the only famous person I have ever related to, and it will never happen again with anyone else. Story 57. Steve Irwin's death impacted me more than any celebrity before. Nowadays, it would be hard. But also, Triple X died and I was very sad because I was into his music and he seemed like he was going to release a lot of work. It would have to be someone I perceive as interesting and unique who is currently providing great content. Probably some YouTubers I watch: Adam Driver, Shia LaBeouf, Florence Pugh, Bad Bunny. Story 58. Kobe Bryant. I remember when I got the text from my friend. I said, "Kobe who?" Like most people, I know more than one Kobe. Rest in peace. Story 59. Eddie Vedder, Billy Joe Armstrong, Michael Stipe, Serge Tankian, and any members of their respective bands would probably challenge me intensely. Story 60. I cannot say any celebrity death would affect me. It is fine if others feel closer to them, but no celebrity has done anything meaningful to affect my life or anyone I know, so their death means nothing to me. Celebrities are strangers, so I feel the same about their death as someone I have never met or knew existed. Story 61. When Jerry Garcia died, my way of life as a Grateful Dead fan changed. I was crushed. No more going on the summer tours, no more fun. I had to become an adult. Story 62. Neil Peart was it for me. I turned down the opportunity to see Rush when I was in college because I had exams. I failed the course anyway, and then there were no other opportunities. I was pretty sad when he died. It hit hard because he had kept it to himself and close people, but I can see why. Story 63. Almost none. Famous people are people at the end of the day, and I do not have any personal relationship with any of them. I would be more distraught by the death of people I see regularly. Story 64. Bret Hart is my favorite wrestler and a person who had a huge influence on me growing up. As much as it sounds simple, a lot of who I am is because I wanted to be like him. There were also a few football players I really admired growing up, though I am not sure if they count. Story 65. Jim Varney. I was coming of age when he became famous, and I had already been following him and finally understanding his genius in comedy. Then he was taken away, and he has not really had a replacement. Story 66. Robert Eggers. I feel he needs at least 3 more masterpiece movies to truly earn the legacy he deserves. I think Nosferatu might be his magnum opus, his The Shining, to make the Stanley Kubrick comparison, but it could still be to come. Story 67. I think most of the respondents missed the point. The question was about living persons suddenly dying, not people who were already deceased. Story 68. Ryan Coogler would probably be number 1 for me right now. Not because he is my favorite celebrity, but I am very excited to see where he takes his career next. It would be a shame to lose that so early. Stevie Wonder. I missed a chance to see him live in New Orleans a few years ago, and I am afraid I will not get the chance again. But he is, in my opinion, the greatest American musician still alive, and it will hurt my feelings deeply when he dies. Story 69. I cannot think of anything currently living whose passing would affect me. However, Tony Todd's passing upset me, and Brad William Hankey, an underrated actor, was a gut punch. I will let you know after it happens. Story 70. Mark Hoppus, Tom DeLonge, and Travis Barker. Blink-182 was the first band I really loved. After I saw the video for What's My Age Again, I became serious about drums. I started playing guitar because I wanted to learn. Damn it. I have learned a lot about songwriting by listening to their music, and I can play a good number of their songs on guitar, drums, and bass. Yes, I realize they are not the most complicated songs. Story 71. Bert Kreischer. I know everyone says they dislike him, but he is amazing. I wish he were here right now. I would love to get permission to party. Story 72. Sydney Sweeney suddenly passing away would be a tragedy simply because those moments have become iconic. Story 73. It would sadden me, not affect me, or well, it did affect me. Most probably Andrés Manuel López Obrador. We know the end is near, but the best president Mexico ever had would be deeply sad. Story 74. I was saddened when I found out that Alexi Laiho from Children of Bodom and Bodom After Midnight died from years of alcohol abuse. He was only 41. Taylor Hawkins, too, passed away at only 50. There are too many musicians whose deaths will devastate me when I hear about them. Story 75. To be honest, the only ones that have affected me were Metal Face Doom and Kevin Conroy. I grew up as a massive Batman fan, so meeting him in person was something I had always wanted to do. I brought up my Batman-themed 7th birthday party and how my name was spelled incorrectly. When he passed a year later, it bothered me for days. As for Metal Facedoom, hearing that he passed on Halloween, I decided to dress up as him. It felt grim, like it was some sick jinx. Story 76. Neil Peart was sick but kept it from the public. I lost my brother 30 years ago, and he was a drummer. My brother loved Rush. That was the connection for me. Story 77. Ryan Dunn and Paul Walker. I misread the title. The day Jack Black leaves will be a sad day. I will miss Nicolas Cage as well. Story 78. There are a handful of progressive and center-left YouTubers with large followings who are leading voices against the legion of misguided individuals in the Make America Great Again universe. I would not be happy if they suddenly died or stopped doing their valuable work. Story 79. I don't think anyone. Well, okay, there are some people still in their 40s and 50s still making music and podcasts and such, and if they suddenly passed, that would be a bit upsetting. But they are not exactly big-time famous, just locally famous. Story 80. None, because I am not a public figure. People die. Why would I be shocked by that unless I know the people involved personally? Parasocial relationships do not have the same status as social relationships. Story 81. I know you understand already, but since this appeared on my feed, I have to say it. I think anyone who is deeply affected by the death of someone who did not know they exist has too much time on their hands. The only deaths that would affect me are those of people I know in life. I find it very strange when celebrities or other well-known people die, and I see people acting like they knew them personally, crying as if they were just spending time with them recently. That seems odd to me. I don't think I will ever be affected by the death of someone I don't personally know and have actually spoken to or spent time with. Story 82. I don't think anyone in the United States at least cares about anyone except themselves. Most people in this country take pride in having a cluster B personality disorder and being narcissistic abusers. I really don't have any friends or like anyone anymore because of a complete lack of empathy and people who intentionally try to destroy the lives of others. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.